All right, everyone, welcome to the Tonto's Demise Week 6 recap. This week was way more interesting than last week. We actually had some stuff come down to Monday night. Made it interesting, maybe exciting for some, awful for others. I made a huge mistake and gave Detling a victory. Brian, very excited that he's sitting there in taking over first place. He's 5-1 now, all because of me. You're welcome, Brian. One bad decision that I will never make again. Goff is my ride or die from here on out, I guess. He won't, unless something happens, knock on wood, hopefully that is not the case. But yeah, Brian and Detling, you guys are welcome for my deciding to play Justin Fields. I really thought that game was going to be two bad defenses, two offenses, a bit of a shootout at least, that Fields wouldn't get hurt. Of course, I didn't anticipate that, obviously, Goff was going to score almost 60 points this week. Because they've just been running the ball so much lately. But Montgomery got hurt, so they might be. Goff, having watched most of that game, Goff looks like he's dialed in to that offense. And I watched a lot of the Vikings and Bears game too. It was just like, I'm sure Jim was paying attention to, watching Kirk Cousins, and it's just like, what is this garbage? This trash game. This should be a shootout. And the defenses showed up. I don't know if it's because it was a divisional game or what. But yeah. Anyway, we had some Monday night magic for people, some Monday night heartbreak for others. So let's get right down into it. The defending champ, Biscuits and Porn, looking to climb back to 500. Meanwhile, the reeling Disco, fresh off some trade magic, looking to avoid dropping to 1-5, climbing out of the basement. And unfortunately for Disco, Biscuits and Porn comes out victorious in this matchup. Final score, 145.75 to 136.15. So a 9.5 point victory for Biscuits, meaning pretty much anything, very little would have required differently in this matchup for it to go a different way. Unfortunately for Disco, that did not happen this week. Taking a quick peek at the benches here. The Logan Thomas, your hero last week, let you down this week because if you had started Gerald Everett, you would have won this matchup, I think. Just barely. I think also maybe Washington's defense. They let you down last week. So Thomas showed up for you. Washington's defense let you down last week. Flip-flop those this week. Thomas let you down. And I think it looks like Washington's defense might have actually done better than the Rams' defense. I don't have the actual numbers right in front of me. I'm not going to go figure it out right now. But yeah, and of course, as everybody probably is well aware right now, CMC suffered an injury in this game fairly early after doing pretty well, had a touchdown, only got you 14 points, probably could have done a lot more than that, changed the outcome of this matchup. The good news, I guess, is that it's not a long-term issue. He should be back in a week or two, if he misses any time at all, really. but you needed him in this matchup to get through the game. And unfortunately, Disco, that did not happen. Let's stop talking about the loser of this matchup. I seem to do that quite often, don't I? Let's talk about them first. But let's talk about the winner. So I already mentioned that watching that Bears-Vikings stinker of a game, Kirk Cousins, 31.5. Your three receivers, Devontae Smith, Jacoby Myers, and Olav, 9.5, 17, 16.5 respectively. Bijan goes for 13, Jacobs goes for 11.5, Kittle only 1.1. Montgomery said in the flex there, he went out also in this game, kind of early, got you 4.5 points. Fortunately for Biscuits, it did not affect the outcome here for you. Matt Gay gets about 10 points, and then the Detroit Lions defense, Yahoo says 13. Looks like you got a bump of about 18 or so. Yeah, they didn't do too much. I think they barely had any rushing yards, didn't do too much yardage-wise there. So yeah, you got bumped up to about 30, 31 for the Lions defense. And those numbers were enough to get past Disco this week. Joe Burrow goes for 38.5. Jamar Chase, 14, not 40 or 50 or 60. Unfortunately, 14 this week. Waddle gets you 18. Mingo, not sure if you had some bye week problems here. You decided, well, you didn't want to play Elijah Moore with PJ Walker at quarterback there. Let's plug Mingo in there. 4 points for him. Said McCaffrey got 14.2 before going out with his injury. Justice Hill, 6.5. Logan Thomas, mentioned him before already, only 1.2. So the two tight ends in this matchup combined for 2.3 points. 2 receptions, 1 each, and 1 yard for Kittle and 2 yards for Logan Thomas. So you did win the tight end matchup, the battle in this matchup. Hollywood Brown goes for 7.5. Your kicker, Sanders from Miami, nothing but PATs. 6 points there. And then the Rams defense, Yahoo says 14. Looks like your bump was about 12 to 26. But yeah, said Thomas with 1, McCaffrey going down, Mingo 4. No field goals from your kicker. Probably would have liked a little bit more from Burrow and Chase. Burrow only had 185 passing yards. Would have liked him, I'm sure, to get a little bit more than that. Maybe a touchdown to Chase. All sorts of things that we could look back and speculate could have happened different in this matchup. But it is not to be. It is what it is, as Gags will always tell you. So yeah, with this victory, Biscuits and Porn moves up to 3-3. He is now in 7th place, while Disco at 1-5, he remains in 12th place. All right, let's do one of the Monday night ones here. We had Dub C Hooligans versus Possum Magic. Dub C was Possum Magic, I believe, had about a 5-point margin here, a 5-point lead, something like that, 5 or 6. Possum Magic going into Monday night. It was Eckler versus Keenan Allen, with Possum said Eckler plus 5 versus Keenan Allen, and it actually ends up being Dub C Hooligans and Keenan Allen getting the victory in this matchup, pretty much thanks to Keenan catching a touchdown and Eckler not getting a touchdown. All right, final score, Dub C 172.45 to Possum Magic 165.75. So just under 7 points, the difference here in this matchup. Let's see, about 6.5, 6.8, something like that. Let's see. Dubsy Hooligans. Josh Allen. This one could have been way more out of hand, but Josh Allen only scored 33.5. A.J. Brown, 20. Ayuk, 11.5. And then Keenan, actually, he went for 21.5. Excuse me. Said it was Keenan versus Eckler. Keenan went for 21.5. Eckler only went for 10.2. So that was the difference here in this matchup. Gus Edwards, 6.3. Deontay Foreman picked him up to play because all the other Bears running backs are out for a little while. 7.7. TJ Hawkinson, again, victim of this horrible Bears-Vikings game. Only 11 points. Stevenson, back in your lineup in the flex there, 18 points from him. Probably glad that you made that choice and popped him back in there. Just looking at the rest of your bench there, Kevin. If you had plugged anybody else in there besides Stevenson, you would have lost this matchup. Well, maybe Ahmed. It was, 5? You might have just barely won this matchup if you had put Ahmed, the running back from the Dolphins, in there who you picked up. Yeah, I think you would have just barely held on. Koo gets about 5.5. And then, big factor here was your Chiefs defense on Thursday night against Denver. I remember changing it up there for you. On Thursday night, I believe their total was actually 37. I added 18 points onto you. So, 37 in a row. Points for the Chiefs, their defense. And it was enough to give Possum Magic another heartbreaker this year. Seems like that's been happening a lot. I'm sure his spirits were elevated. Getting Austin Eckler back this week. But it was not to be. Brock Purdy only got you 20 points. That's quarterback score, tough to win with on a week-to-week basis in our league. Ridley, Nico, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Ridley only 6.5. Nico goes for 12, but Amon-Ra pops off for 30.5. Pacheco just under 16. Again, Eckler only 10.2. He finds the end zone in this matchup. Things might have been a little bit different. Goddard, 9.2. Drake London in the flex. Looks like he's coming on a bit. 21.5. Your kicker, Folk, gets you about 9. And then your Jacksonville Jaguars defense actually did pretty good against the Indianapolis Colts. Looks like Yahoo says 21. And looks like the actual score was about 30. So two pretty good defensive scores in this matchup. Really comes down to quarterback play for Possum Magic. Just couldn't get it done. Only 20 points from your quarterback. Baker Mayfield actually might have been a better... If you had started Baker Mayfield, you might have won this matchup by just a tiny, tiny bit. But hindsight is 2020. Probably didn't expect Purdy to do that, although the Cleveland defense in Cleveland has been shutting people down. Pretty much the first, every game, most games this year. Who did they shut? Was it week 1? I think they just, it was Burrow. They shut Burrow down. Why am I looking at that? I'm not looking at Purdy doesn't help me. I don't think there's any Browns in the lineups here. Yeah, if you're starting a Cleveland Brown in your lineup right now, times are probably pretty tough. But yeah, it was Burrow they shut down in week 1. I think they shut down somebody else too. Anyway, with this victory, opposite sides of the spectrum, Dubsy Hooligans, he moves up to 4-2. while Possum Magic drops to 2 and 4. Dub C is in 4th place. Possum Magic is in 10th place. All right. Monday night also came down sort of to Shawshank versus Gags to Riches. Josh had Herbert, his quarterback, going, while Gags had the Dallas Cowboys kicker, I believe. I forget exactly what the difference was. 25 or so, something like that. A pretty. I mean, that was what I think. Gags was ahead by about 25 or so. But like I said, with Josh's quarterback, you were probably feeling pretty good that it was going to go your way. Of course, anything can happen. Sometimes it does. But yeah, Herbert said he was able to chip away enough points there towards the end of the game to squeak out a victory, even though Aubrey had a couple field goals there. For Gags, the final score, 141.75 to 136.4. So yeah, about, 5.3. Pretty low difference here. But yeah, so Herbert was able to get just enough. For Josh, he goes for 42.35. Even though he had that, the last pass that he threw was a -3 interception there. Fortunately, you were already ahead by enough. Your receivers, Garrett Wilson, Judy, and D-Hop. 17 for Wilson, but Judy goes for 4.5, and Hopkins goes for 3. Derrick Henry, 19.3. Saquon comes back and gets you almost 14. Jonnu Smith, putting up solid numbers at tight end here off the waiver wire. 13.5 points from him. Just bad mouth anybody playing the Cleveland Browns in their offense in their starting lineup here. Amari Cooper in the flex for Josh goes for just under 15 points. And you have the San Fran kicker and defense. Let's see. Moody, the kicker, only got you. Let's see. He missed a couple kicks. He lost them this game with a missed short field goal attempt. Fortunately, that difference there did not affect the outcome here, Josh. That +3 or -3 from your defense getting a win or a loss. But I think Moody ended up getting you like 2 point something, 2.5 maybe. And the San Fran defense, Yahoo says 14. And I believe you actually only got 11. I had to cut some points from your defense here. Really, probably a surprising result to most everyone in the league here. San Fran's defense, I mean, really, Buffalo's defense and San Fran's defense this week. I'm sure you guys went in expecting big things and really didn't get them from either one against the Browns and the Giants. But fortunately for you guys, it did not adversely affect your matchups. For Gags to Riches, who has been reeling the past few weeks here, Tua goes for 46, but Debo only gets 1.1 and goes out with an injury, all on a rushing attempt. No catches or anything for him as a wide receiver. He just gets 11 rushing yards. Michael Thomas, 9.5. Godwin, 13.5. Ford, the Browns running back, gets 11. Plug and play, Latavius Murray for Buffalo gets you 4.5. Kyle Pitts scores a touchdown, gets you 14.5. T. Higgins comes back, but really doesn't do much. I think he was mostly a decoy in this matchup. Only 4 points from him, recovering from some cracked ribs as they are heading into their bye week. I was kind of surprised that he played in this game at all, but they probably wanted him to rest up as much as possible, said, since they have their bye week coming up. to try and get 100% healthy. Again, Aubrey, the Dallas kicker, goes for about 9 or so. And then the Houston Texans defense. Yahoo says 14. Looks like you got about a 9-point bump there, up to 23. But unfortunately, it was not enough to get past Shawshank and Herbert there on Monday night. Would have liked a little bit more from Debo there. Maybe Murray punching in a touchdown. T. Higgins maybe doing something. Yeah. A lot of the rest of your guys, they tried, but the couple guys here that let you down, decided the outcome of this matchup. Said another close one, only 5.5, 5.3, something like that. But yeah, Shawshank climbs back. Both of you guys were looking to climb back to 500 at 3-3. Josh does it. He goes to 3-3. He's in 8th place, while Gags to Riches drops to 2-4. He is in 11th place. All right. Another one on Monday night was Ed Lager versus Getting Gritty. Ed was done, sitting pretty, waiting to see what happens with his score, 178.5. While Getting Gritty still had Dak left to go. I believe he needed Dak to get about 54, 56, something like that. And, well, Dak, he gave it the old college try. He certainly made this one interesting. Dak went for he went for 48.5. It was just not quite enough to get past Ed. The final score here ends up being 178.5 to 171.4. So only a 7.1 difference here. So it's close matchups this week. For Ed, said he was done going into Monday night. Just had to pray that Dak didn't get into a shootout. This game started like it was going to be a shootout, but then it went ice cold for basically the second and third quarters. Then got interesting again in the fourth quarter. Let's see. For Ed, Mahomes goes for 52.5. Devontae only 5. Mike Evans 9. Zay goes for 17. Big one here for you was Mostert popping off for 3 total touchdowns, just over 37 points. Newly acquired Swift from Getting Gritty. From you, 8 catches. He scores a touchdown, gets you almost 18 points. Komet 3. Scary Terry in the flex gets 14. El McPherson, your kicker, gets about 7 point something. Then your Miami Dolphins defense versus Carolina. Yahoo says 10, but I think they ended up giving up a lot of garbage time yards there. Yahoo says 10. Looks like you only got maybe a 6-point bump up to 16. But it was enough to hold on and get past Getting Gritty, who you traded your Broncos to for Swift. He got rid of Burrow, traded for Dak. That turned out to be a pretty good trade for you this week, at least, because Burrow is only in the 30s there. So Dak, he went for 48.5, not quite enough. So you needed him to get to about 7.5. So you needed to get him. He needed to get you to about 56. Asking a lot, but it's definitely possible. Just couldn't quite get you there. Kirk goes for 14. Thielen, another 28.5 points for him. This has to be the pick of the draft, the steal of the draft. Adam Thielen, 28.5 this week, 27 last week, 15, 31, 20. Outside of week 1, where he didn't really do anything, said 15, 20, 27, 28, 31 have been his scores. Garbage time hero this year for you. Fortunately, it isn't. Unfortunately, it hasn't translated into victories. You got Cortland Sutton. He got you 14 and a half. Excuse me. Mixon goes for 9.2. Also acquired Javonte Williams, 7.2. Zach Ertz only 4.2. Chuba Hubbard playing for Miles Sanders since he was out this week, 16 points in the flex. Your kicker, Butker, actually kicks a bunch of field goals on Thursday night there. Goes for about 17, maybe 18 points there. It's a good kicker score. Unfortunately, not enough. And you're probably a surprise here. Your Saints defense, who was playing lights out for you the past couple weeks here, actually lost to Houston. Yahoo says 11. I believe that must have been correct because the bump up here for you was I mean three, even 3 points would have been too much. So yeah, it must have been 11 for you. Yeah, just not quite enough. Who would have been your quarterback? Oh, you had Burrow. Yes, sorry. You traded for Prescott. So that gained you about 12 points. Trying to figure out if you would have been better off with the players that you had before that trade or not. I mean, Gabe Davis was on your bench. He didn't do anything for you. So you gained, 12 or so by having Dak in there. But said Sutton did okay. Who would you have had? Swift and Williams said it was about a 10-point difference there. Said Sutton, you didn't really have many other choices at wide receiver. So yeah, you technically I think you were better off, just barely, with the guys that you traded for in this matchup. But yeah, I wasn't. I don't know why Siri thinks I'm talking to her.
I don't know what you mean.
She doesn't know what I mean. Anyway, but yeah, getting gritty. Just looking at it real quick here, I think you were actually just slightly better off with the players that you acquired from the trade this week, at least. I mean, Dak, okay. I mean, he's going. Both of those guys, Dak and Burrow, have a bye coming up. So I see how about that. I mean, I personally would rather have Burrow on a week-to-week basis, but I still think I would much rather have Swift than the combo of Sutton and Williams. Just really, overall, don't really like those trades still for you. Yeah, I personally think you are. We will see how it plays out over the course of the season, but I think you would be better off if you. I mean, I don't not the Dak trade. You got Gabe Davis. He's been touchdown dependent. I'm pretty even on that trade. I think like I said, I still would have preferred Burrow on your team and not really given. I mean, obviously it didn't do much this week, but I'm sure Disco was pretty excited to get that Burrow Chase stack. There are going to be weeks ahead where that will definitely influence the outcome of matchups in Disco's favor here down the line. I am sure of that, but as of right now, it was not to be. Anyway, that's enough. Ed Logger, he climbs back to 3-3. He is in 6th place. While getting gritty, he drops to 2-4, and he is in 9th place. All right, what else? Was this one on? Was there some Monday night action here too. Yeah. uh, Hillbillies on PCP versus Darkwing Jet. Hillbillies was done with his score, and Darkwing had CD Lamb. I think that's it in this matchup. Oh, and the Dallas defense. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember exactly what the Hillbillies lead was. Well, so you won by 12. Lamb scored 18, so that's a 30-point difference there. Looks like about a 9-30. So it must have been about a 60 to 65 point lead for Hillbillies going into Monday night. With Darkwing had CD Lamb and the Cowboys defense. Looks like the Cowboys defense, Yahoo says 10. 13 would have been too much, so it must have been 9. So they must have gotten 19. So CD Lamb and the Cowboys defense each got you about 19, but it was not quite enough. It was possible. Would have been asking a lot. Maybe CD Lamb gets a touchdown. Cowboys defense, only 1 sack. They did win the game. But yeah, it's about a 12-point difference here. So they gave it a good try for Justin, but they couldn't quite get there for you. Hillbillies on PCP, 180.15. Darkwing Jet, 168.9. All right, Hillbillies has, I guess he's sticking with Lamar Jackson. He was at Stroud versus the Saints defense there. Lamar goes for just over 39. Pittman goes for 20. Curtis Samuel and Shaheed, guys we laughed at you probably for having in your starting lineup this week. Both of them find the end zone. Samuel goes for 14.2, and Shaheed goes for 18.3. Madison and ETN, 11.2, 23.3. Kelsey on Thursday night there got you 21.5. Jonathan Taylor, a little bit more active this week, gets you 11.5 in the flex. 5 catches, receiving work, accounting for most of his points there. And then your kicker and defense, much like Josh, must be a Cobra thing. Both from Buffalo, but Bass kicks 2 PATs and misses 2 field goals, gets you a 0. 0, Mr. Volchko. And the Buffalo Bills defense. This one should have been way more lopsided, I think, than it ended up being. Yahoo says 9 for the Bills defense. Looks like you got also a 9-point bump up there to about 18. But yeah, said ETN scored 2 touchdowns. Kelsey was got you up into the 20s. Pittman was just under 20. And really thanks to Samuel and Shaheed both finding the end zone this week, it was enough to get past Darkwing Jet. Matthew Stafford only goes for 30.5. Tyreek, again, 31.3. CD Lamb there on Monday night got you just under 19. Tyler Lockett, 15.5. Kyron Williams, over 150 yards and a touchdown, gets you 24.8. But now he's got a sprained ankle, which looks like it's going to keep him out for a little bit of time. James Cook, only 7 points. Probably would have liked a little bit more from him there, especially at home against the Giants. Waller against Buffalo, 9.3. Osborne in the flex there, put him in. He is filling in for Justin Jefferson. Again, probably would have liked a little bit more from him there in this matchup. A victim of that Vikings-Bears snooze fest. 8.8. Your kicker, who has been carrying you throughout this season, Justin, putting up 15 to 20 points a week. Where was that this week? Come on, Elliott. He misses a field goal and only kicks 2 PATs. gets you 1 point. Uh, and you just needed, what, 13 from him? He's been doing that pretty much every week here for you. Just couldn't happen this week. And then said the Dallas Cowboys defense, they did win this matchup, as I said before, the past few weeks. As Dallas's defense goes, so does Justin's team. So they did get you 19 points. It wasn't 59 points like they've been doing a couple times here for you, and said it was not enough to get past Hillbillies this week. He moves to 5-1. Hillbillies takes over 5th place. Not 5th place. I'm thinking about your winning streak. It's now 5 games. Brian, you are in 1st place. As you know, it's Justin who is in 5th place, and he moves up. He said he drops to 3-3. Spent the first couple weeks in 1st place, but he has dropped a couple games here these past few weeks and has dropped to 3-3. He is in 5th place. All right, we got Josh, we got Ed, we got Dub C, we got Hillbillies, we got Biscuits. So finally, the matchup of the week, Yinzer Jags versus the Wizard of Winburn. And as I have already alluded to, this matchup, the points were there. They were there, but I made the wrong decision. Decided to go with Fields this week, and what I thought was going to be more of a shootout matchup ended up being a complete dud. And Fields also goes out with an injury in this game, scores me 10.5 points when Goff would have scored me just under 59. So a 48-point difference between my quarterbacks here, which would have gotten me just right around the 200-point barrier this week. But yeah, I did what I did. It is what it is. Yinzer Jags gets the victory, 190.6 to 152.7. For Yinzer Jags, Jalen Hurts goes for 48, DJ Moore 10, Tyler Boyd 17, Cooper Kupp 28, Kamara 17.5, Ken Walker 18, Schultz 16, Laporta in the flex 7.5. Your kicker, Maher from the Rams now, he goes for about 14. And then the Eagles defense, excuse me. They ended up losing to the Jets. Thanks to your Jalen Hurts there throwing an interception near the end of the game. Yahoo says 11. Looks like you got maybe a 3-point bump there to 14. But yeah, I think I mentioned it in the lineup. The 1 o'clock games, we were literally 10, 15 minutes into the 1 o'clock games, like by 20 after 1. The Bengals-Seahawks game was 7-7. Touchdowns scored by Tyler Boyd and Ken Walker. And the Houston game versus New Orleans, touchdown, Schultz. So 3 touchdowns, basically right out of the gates. And I knew I was in trouble at that point. And was watching this Minnesota-Chicago game. Said I wanted to see how Addison looked. Now that Jefferson's not there, I wanted to see how Fields was going to look, obviously. And it was a huge letdown. Needless to say, other than Addison catching a touchdown, which he's been pretty solid doing that. But yeah, said Fields only got 10.5. Diggs goes for 20. Addison, 12. Puka, only 6.5. Oh yeah, he also... right after Cooper Kupp makes like a 45-yard reception, Puka drops a touchdown, catches a touchdown, hits the ground, ball comes out, drops a touchdown pass. Just what it was not meant to be for me this week. Rashad White, only 7. Brees gets 20. Mark Andrews 11. Tony Pollard 17. I guess you could say I had a chance on Monday night if Tony Pollard could have scored. Let's see, I still needed 38 points. So if Tony Pollard could have just put up a 55, 60 point performance, yeah, didn't happen. McManus, pretty good game from him. He gets about 18. And then the Baltimore Ravens defense, Yahoo says 18. Looks like I got about a 14-point bump, maybe 12. It couldn't be 14, so probably a 12-point bump up to about 30 for my defense there. But yeah, this matchup again basically came down to me sitting Goff and putting Fields in there for the first time this year, kicking myself about it still, and said Yinzerjag gets the victory. He moves up to 4-2, while the Wizard of Wimber drops to 4-2. Wizard is in second place. Yinzerjags is right under in third place. And the knockout pool is this week Disco. Disco goes out, so half the league is currently in still, and half the league is out. Teams who are out of the knockout pool. Let's see who's still in. The Wizard is in. Hillbillies are still in. Dub C is still in. I think Possum is still in. And Ed, is that me? Brian, that's 2. Tree and Dub C, that's 4. 3, 4. Ed is 5. I think Getting Gritty is still in it. Right? I need to write this all down. Because week 1 was Detling. Week 2 was Jim. Week 3 was Justin. Week 4 was Gags. Week 5 was Josh. Yeah. And week 6 is Disco. So yeah, Getting Gritty is still in it. Zach, Ed, Kevin, Tree, me, and B. All right, I think that's we have not been injury-free. Please, guys, stop with all the injuries taking people out this year, left and right. So we're approaching the halfway point in the season. After this week, we will be halfway through the regular season. So a lot of people, especially Gags, unfortunately, this year have been suffering with some injury problems. We've all been getting hit here and there. It's basically, we said we're halfway through. The standings are still pretty much muddled. We said we got 3 4-2s, 4 3-3s, and 3 2-4s. So it's still anybody's game here down the stretch here. Brian may think he's pulling away. Said he's already at 5. 8 probably is our magic number now, so he is well on his way to getting a playoff spot. But yeah, other than that, those spots also, as usual, everything in the middle is pretty much up for grabs. Yeah, so hopefully, said guys, it's going to be, said we're only halfway. The injury bug has been biting pretty much everybody. So it's going to be a grind here through the last half of the season, just trying to keep your team healthy and performing. Really, there are no teams other than sorry Gags that have been performing up and down their lineups fairly solid this year. And I really said I look at even Disco, who I will mention again. Yahoo projects Disco. He's got you down to 7-7 now. Yahoo really liked you all year long. But yeah, they kind of dropped you down to just missing the playoffs there. Sorry, Disco. But But yeah, your record doesn't mean your team cannot pop off any given week. That I know for sure. So I said, even though I was in first place, cruising along a little bit here, the first couple weeks of the season, I am not feeling comfortable. It's gonna said whoever you're playing every week, it's gonna be a dogfight. I think because said nobody really stands out, but nobody said other than sorry Gags. He's the only one who has really kind of trailed off so far this year. But yeah, again, coming down here to the second half of the season, I mean, I'm looking ahead at my schedule. No easy victories. It's gonna be a dogfight down to the wire here, and it's gonna be fun to watch the playoff stretch here coming up. Let's take a quick peek at week 7. Um, see if we got some of the. Let's see where those 2 and 4 teams are at, because they're trying to hold on to life here. We got Disco versus Gags. So Disco 1 and 5, Gags 2 and 4. Disco trying to climb back out of the basement. We'll see what he can do. Gags has been reeling in a downward spiral, these past few weeks. So perhaps Disco will be able to climb out of the basement this week, despite having Burrow and Chase on their bye. Let's take a look. He's got Deshaun Watson in there. I guess they're thinking he's going to come back from his injury and play this week. We'll see what happens there, because you currently don't have any other quarterbacks on your roster there, Disco. Still got 3 defenses. We'll see what happens. You got CMC in your flex there. They don't play till Monday night, so perhaps you're going to make a move there for one of the San Fran backup running backs here on waivers overnight. We'll see what happens there. Said, who knows? CMC might actually, who knows if he'll end up. He's projected. They have him projected at 22. So who knows? That's tricky with them playing on Monday night there. You're hoping Gibbs comes back from his injury. You said you got some bye week issues there. You said you could make some moves. It's going to be, it's going to be tricky to see what you end up doing with your lineup there, Disco. Said some people you're hoping come back from their injuries. So you have some bye week problems. But we will see what kind of action you do, if anything, on the waiver wire here tonight. Gags got some bye week issues for him. No T, no kicker. Currently, no defense in his lineup. Miles Sanders is on bye. Chark's on bye. Well, you got Tucker on your bench, the kicker. I'm sure you'll plug him in. That means you need a defense and you need a flex play this week. You got Tony, you got AJ Dillon. We'll see what you. You basically need a defense. We'll see what you do there. Said one of you said Disco could get loss number 6, or you could both end up 2 and 5 there. So this is a must win for both of you guys there. The other 2 and 4s, we got Getting Gritty going up against Darkwing Jet. Said Justin's kind of been trailing off these past few weeks. He's lost 2 in a row. Getting Gritty. Said he was trying to climb back in it. We'll see what happens there. Just said Justin, he knocked back to 500. He's trying to get to 4 and 3, while Getting Gritty trying to climb back to 500 and avoid getting loss number 5 already. While Possum Magic trying to avoid loss number 5. He's going up against Hillbillies on PCP this week. Let's take a look at your lineups. See what we got for Brian and Tree here. Bye week wise, let's see. No Texans and no Cowboys there. Doesn't really affect doesn't really affect Brian much at all here. For Tree, said no Nico, so you got Wandale in there. You need a kicker for this week. See, yeah, you paid like $75 each for Michael Wilson and what's his first name? Amari DiMercado. You pay like 75% of your free agent budget on two Arizona Cardinals, and they have neither one has even sniffed your starting lineup yet. Interesting choices there for Tree, but yeah, he's got a starting lineup. Just needs to get himself a kicker for this week. So yeah, so Possum in a tough spot, trying to avoid falling to 2-5. So getting gritty. If Justin can turn things around, and then Disco versus Gags, a 11 versus 12 battle. Well, Disco, you gotta start. If you're gonna climb back up, you gotta start somewhere. You can only go up from where you are. We got Wizard versus Biscuits. Projections are almost dead even right now. Said I have no Pollard and no Brees this week. You probably are going to have no Montgomery. Other than that, you aren't really missing much of anything that you would be playing anyway. Said for me, said no Pollard, no Brees, kind of cobbling together a running back core here that not very proud of. Deontay probably coming back off of IR, hopefully going to play this week. Still TBD if I will plug him into the lineup. Said Addison against San Francisco. Not sure I like that matchup. So very possible that Deontay ends up in my starting lineup in the flex there. So we'll see what happens there. Should be a good matchup. So the projections are almost dead even. And then Yinzer Jags and Dub C. 2 4-2s. One of you guaranteed to get win number 5. This should be a good one. So just taking a look at your benches right away instead of trying to figure out. So Kevin looks pretty good, and Detling also looking pretty good in terms of bye week issues. Yeah, you guys are basically going full speed ahead here for your lineups. Yeah. If so you have Kansas City against the Chargers, not too bad. Pretty even. This is going to be a good matchup here. With so Detling's riding a 5-game win streak, trying to catch Brian in first place there. So, yeah, that should be a good one to watch here. Somebody's going to get win number 5 for sure. Is that all the matchups there? We talked about the 2-4s, the 2-4s, Dub C, Detling, Ed and Josh. Both Ed and Josh go down. Both teams are 3-3. Someone will drop below 500. Somebody will climb above. Projections pretty heavily in favor of Ed, it looks like so far. Let's take a look at Ed's got. Do you have any bye week issues here? Not really. He just needs a kicker. For Josh, no Wilson, no Titans for you, no Gallup. You should, but you got other than starting Zeke and Rashad Bateman, Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, and Rashad Bateman, not a wide receiver trio. Certainly no Cup, Chase, and Jefferson. How far you have fallen, Josh. Yeah, just an ugly wide receiver trio. We'll see what happens there. Yeah, these are all going to be pretty good matchups in terms of just competitiveness and standings wise. So some of those people near the bottom trying to climb their way back up. while the people at the top are trying to hold on, and instead of dropping down, try to hold back and climb up, separate from the lower teams a little bit more here, which is always basically what happens around this time of year. The separation is usually split pretty close to what it is right now. Said after 6 weeks, with basically spots 2 to 11, a 2-game difference between spots 2 and 11 there. So a lot of shifting will happen these next couple weeks, as it always does. So going to be fun to see what happens. Somebody please end Brian and Detling's winning streaks here. Getting sick and tired of talking about it. No more injuries. May everyone's teams meet or exceed expectations. Again, stop with the injuries. Everybody stays healthy. And thanks for listening, watching, or whatever it is you do. Kevin, I think your dog took a shit right down over there. You might want to clean that up. I apologize. Little bump on the nose here. If you happen to notice already, the ice machine, the lid of the ice machine at work today gave me a cheap shot when I wasn't looking. Gave me a nice little scratch there, but yeah, so apologize for that. Hopefully it's gone this time next week, and we will be back here to recap the events of Week 7, in which we will officially be halfway through the regular season. It's also getting kind of chilly in here. I think said my throat's feeling a little scratchy. Probably need to fire up the heat a little bit, warm this place up a little. Yeah. So definitely need to do that. Hate this time of year when it starts to get cold. But yeah, it is what it is. Can never say it enough because it works pretty much for everything. It's the ultimate phrase, really. I mean, when you think about it. All right, guys, thanks for listening, watching, or whatever it is you do. Because for some reason, I can never seem to say goodbye and then just end the review. So we will see you back here next week and recap what should be an interesting Week 7. All right, guys, thanks, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.